There was a woman sitting in the car. She was Ju Yan, who looked alone while calling her fiancé. Soon there was a mysterious man who approached Ju Yan. The mysterious man offered to help Ju Yan, but her fiancé told her to stay out of the car and wait for the tow truck to arrive. Then Ju Yan gently refused the help from the mysterious man. Ju Yan said that she already called the tow truck. Hearing that, the mysterious man tried to offer his help again after checking Ju Yan's tires. However, Ju Yan firmly refused his help. The man then walked towards the yellow car. A few moments later, Ju Yan felt something was wrong with the car in front of her because it didn't leave. Ju Yan then turned on the distance light so that the car was highlighted. What was Ju Yan's surprise was that the mysterious man returned to her car and immediately broke her windshield. She tried to run away from the mysterious man. Unfortunately, Ju Yan was caught and taken to the man's place. Ju Yan then woke up powerless. She saw that the man was about to kill her. Ju Yan begged not to be killed. She also said that she was pregnant. Hearing that, the mysterious man, who turned out to be a psychopath, didn't care. He then tied her up and cut off her body parts. At that time, Ju Yan's engagement ring accidentally fell in the drain. The psychopathic man didn't care about that. He continued to cut Ju Yan's body into pieces so that her blood flowed freely. A few days passed and Ju Yan's body parts were finally found by the residents. Then the police immediately searched for other body parts, until a head was found in the river. At the same time, Ju Yan's father also came to see how the police found his daughter's head. Soon a man arrived at the location. His name was Soo Hyun, who was Ju Yan's fiancé that was killed. Soo Hyun was devastated by the fact that his fiancée had died in such an unnatural way. The next morning, Soo Hyun met Ju Yan's father, who was sad. They both then felt that they couldn't take care of Ju Yan. Soo Hyun, who saw Ju Yan's father sad, became angry with what he experienced. At night, during Ju Yan's funeral, Soo Hyun promised to give 10,000 pains to Ju Yan's murderer. The next morning, Soo Hyun, who was a member of the National Intelligence Agency, asked permission to relax for 2 weeks to his superior. In fact, Soo Hyun actually wanted to find the whereabouts of the perpetrator and take revenge on the person who killed his fiancée. With his position and access as part of the National Intelligence Agency, Soo Hyun easily managed to get a location tracking device. Then he went to see Ju Yan's father to ask for the files of the 4 suspected perpetrators of Ju Yan's murder. All 4 of them seemed to have a track record of crimes like Ju Yan. It was revealed that Ju Yan's father had an important position in the police world, so Soo Hyun easily obtained the files. After Soo Hyun got the files, he went straight to one of the men from the 4 photos in the files. Soo Hyun quickly paralyzed the man and tied him up. That man has raped many women in Korea. Then Soo Hyun showed him the photo of Ju Yan's car. But he admitted that he didn't know the car at all because apparently he wasn't the perpetrator. Then Soo Hyun, who was already emotional, directly hit the man's genitals with a blunt object. After that, the man was critical and hospitalized. Soo Hyun, who was unsatisfied with his first search, he quickly searched for the whereabouts of the second man, who allegedly killed Ju Yan. Then on a road, Soo Hyun suddenly deliberately hit a motorcyclist. It turned out that the motorcyclist was Soo Hyun's second target in finding the perpetrator of Ju Yan's murder. But when Soo Hyun beat him and opened his helmet, Soo Hyun realized that he was not the perpetrator. Then Soo Hyun left the man. At night, Soo Hyun felt tired but also anxious because there were still 2 men who were suspected of being the perpetrators. At first, Soo Hyun wanted to sleep. However, he couldn't sleep and immediately noticed one of the photos of the third man. Soo Hyun decided to look for the man's whereabouts. Meanwhile, at a bus stop, there was a woman waiting for the bus to arrive. Not long after, the mysterious man tried to offer the woman a ride. At first, she refused, but the man was able to convince her that there would be no buses coming that late. This made the woman fall for his words and get into the man's car. Shortly afterward, the man took an iron rod and beat the woman senseless. The man seemed happy to kill a woman because he was a psychopathic man. When the man arrived at his house, he dressed up and casually sang a song with his guitar. When the morning came, Soo Hyun arrived at a house that was the home of the psychopathic man's parents. Soo Hyun pretended to be an insurance man who searched for the psychopathic man's whereabouts. It was revealed that the man's name was Jang Kyung-chol, who also abandoned his son, so his parents were the ones who took care of their grandson. After getting information about Jang Kyung-chol's house, Soo-hyun rushed to find the house that Jang Kyung-chol's son was referring to. With anger, Soo-hyun speeded up his driving to get to Jang Kyung-chol's house. When Soo-hyun arrived at Jang Kyung-chol's house, he searched the house right away. Soo-hyun was surprised to find many items belonging to the women that Jang Kyung-chol had killed. While looking for clues whether Jang Kyung-chol killed Ju-yeon, Soo-hyun was even more shocked and saddened when he found their engagement ring in a drain in Jang Kyung-chol's execution room. Soo-hyun then took the ring and felt even more vengeful towards the psychopathic man. On the other hand, Jang Kyung-chol worked as a student driver. In the morning, he brought several students in his car. Without Kyung-chol realizing it, Soo-hyun had put a tracking device in Kyung-chol's car. After delivering several students and then only one female student left, Kyung-chol then used the opportunity to kidnap the girl. Kyung-chol took the girl to a garden. He tied her hands and tried to rape her before he killed her. But all of a sudden, while Kyung-chol was enjoying the girl's body, Soo-hyun came. Kyung-chol, who saw Soo-hyun's arrival, was annoyed. Kyung-chol then attacked him, but Soo-hyun easily defeated him. Soo-hyun felt that he wanted to kill Kyung-chol, but he abandoned his intention because Soo-hyun wanted to make him suffer many times over. Seeing Kyung-chol, who fainted, Soo-hyun then inserted a tracking device into Kyung-chol's mouth and forced him to swallow the device. After that, Soo-hyun freed the girl that Kyung-chol wanted to kill. A few moments later, Kyung-chol woke up from his stupor. He didn't find Soo-hyun there, but an envelope filled with money from Soo-hyun. Looking at the money, Kyung-chol was confused by Soo-hyun's intention of sending the money. Then after he recovered a little, Kyung-chol left the place, but he didn't get into his own car. Kyung-chol chose to wait for a ride on the side of the road. Then a man who drove a taxi let him in. However, before Kyung-chol got in, there was already another passenger in the back seat. But actually, the passenger was actually a friend of the driver who was also a psychopath like Kyung-chol. At first, they both targeted Kyung-chol as their target. However, Kyung-chol, who realized that there was something strange about the two people, immediately killed them both. Kyung-chol then tied their bodies in the middle of the forest. Kyung-chol found that the real taxi driver was dead, and they kept it in the trunk. Then Kyung-chol chose to leave by using that taxi. In the morning, Kyung-chol went to a clinic to treat his wound. But again, Kyung-chol saw a flaw in order to carry out his psychopathic actions. He approached a nurse who worked at the clinic. At first, the nurse didn't realize that Kyung-chol was behaving strangely until when the nurse went into a room, Kyung-chol followed her. He ordered the nurse to take off her clothes. The nurse begged Kyung-chol not to hurt her. At the same time, Soo-hyun, who heard Kyung-chol and the nurse's conversation through the tracking device, immediately rushed to the clinic. When Soo-hyun arrived, Kyung-chol was unaware of it because he was with the nurse. Soo-hyun, who saw Kyung-chol was being arbitrary, then beat him up. Without taking long, Soo-hyun was able to immobilize Kyung-chol. Soo-hyun then asked the nurse to close her eyes and ears because Soo-hyun was about to hurt Kyung-chol's leg. But after he hurt Kyung-chol's leg, Soo-hyun asked the nurse to wound Kyung-chol. Then once he was satisfied with hurting Kyung-chol, Soo-hyun left him. Meanwhile, Kyung-chol felt upset because he had difficulty walking and suffered injuries. After that, Kyung-chol continued his journey even though he had no destination. As night fell, Kyung-chol stopped and thought about the purpose of Soo-hyun continuing to follow him. But then a car appeared which turned out to be soldiers. At first, Kyung-chol thought that it was a civilian. However, when Kyung-chol saw that they were soldiers, he abandoned his intention to carry out his gruesome act. Then Kyung-chol decided to go to his friend's house, who turned out to be a cannibal. When he arrived at his friend's house, there was a couple who were very cruel cannibals. They kidnapped girls and used them as food stock. Kyung-chol then rested while thinking about who Soo-hyun was and what his purpose was in pursuing Kyung-chol. He then sequenced the events he experienced with Soo-hyun until he found the answer when he remembered that Soo-hyun wore the same ring as Ju-yeon. Meanwhile, Kyung-chol's friend went to the kitchen. He looked at his food stock, which was fresh girl's meat. He was confused about which human meat he would cook for tomorrow's meal. He then decided to pull a girl who was still alive. The man seemed confused about which part of the body he would eat first. But before the man could cut off the girl's hand, Soo-hyun came. She immediately attacked the cannibal man quickly. When Soo-hyun was about to kill the cannibal man, Kyung-chol appeared and was about to shoot Soo-hyun. Fortunately, Soo-hyun managed to survive and escape. Instead of leaving, Soo-hyun chose to enter the house through the ground floor. Before Soo-hyun knew it, the cannibal woman was secretly watching Soo-hyun's movements, who stalked Kyung-chol. The cannibal woman quickly hit Soo-hyun. Luckily, Soo-hyun managed to defeat the woman. Then when Soo-hyun was about to take his weapon, the cannibal man appeared and injured Soo-hyun. However, Soo-hyun, who was an expert in martial arts, easily paralyzed the large cannibal man. Soo-hyun then realized that Kyung-chol was coming. Soo-hyun immediately spread the fishing hook on the floor so that Kyung-chol's foot was injured. Seeing that, Soo-hyun then kicked Kyung-chol in the face and made him faint. Soo-hyun decided not to kill him easily. He took Kyung-chol to the hospital to get treatment. Meanwhile, the police arrived at the cannibal couple's house. They found out that the person who injured the couple was Soo-hyun. When he saw that, a police commander went to Junyan's father. He showed Soo-hyun's picture and asked him to stop Soo-hyun. However, Junyan's father knew that Soo-hyun was a person who insisted on achieving his goals, so he could only remain silent as the policeman spoke. Back to Kyung-chol, who escaped from the clinic. He learned that Soo-hyun inserted a tracking device into his body. Then Kyung-chol wounded the pharmacy employee so that Soo-hyun would be fooled. Soo-hyun then went to the pharmacy and found that the pharmacy clerk was injured. Unfortunately, he didn't find Kyung-chol in the pharmacy. Meanwhile, Kyung-chol, who had known that Soo-hyun had a relationship with Junyan, then checked Junyan's address because Kyung-chol always checked the identity of his victims first. Once he got the address of Junyan's house, Kyung-chol immediately went to see Junyan's father. Soo-hyun found out that Kyung-chol was heading to Junyan's house and was really worried. Unfortunately, he couldn't contact Junyan's father to warn him that Kyung-chol was coming. Soo-hyun, who had no other choice, then met the cannibal man who was still alive. Soo-hyun asked about Kyung-chol's whereabouts. The man carelessly said that the Kyung, who was never willing to give up, would hurt the people who were closest to Soo-hyun, so that it would make Soo-hyun lose to him. After Kyung-chol finished them off, then he would turn himself into the police. Hearing that, Soo-hyun was furious and decided to cut the man's mouth. Soo-hyun then called the police commander and told him to come to Junyan's house in order to save Junyan's father. Sadly, the police were too late because Kyung-chol had injured Junyan's father badly. Meanwhile, Kyung-chol took Junyan's sister and injured her. Soo-hyun was very angry when he realized that the people he cared about were tortured. Soon Soo-hyun received a call from Kyung-chol. He said that Soo-hyun was defeated while he was the winner. Soo-hyun was getting annoyed with him and wanted to finish him off as soon as possible. At the same time, Kyung-chol headed to a highway to hand himself over to the police. Then the police hid and were ready to ambush Kyung-chol when he arrived. When Kyung-chol arrived at the street, he proudly told the police to arrest him. However, Soo-hyun suddenly arrived at high speed. He deliberately damaged the car door so that he could take Kyung-chol away from there. Meanwhile, the policemen who ambushed Kyung-chol were surprised to see Soo-hyun, who appeared unexpectedly. Finally, Soo-hyun managed to bring Kyung-chol to Kyung-chol's house. Soo-hyun was quite relieved to be able to immobilize Kyung-chol. Then Soo-hyun tied him up in the place where Kyung-chol mutilated his victims. But Kyung-chol, who was psychopathic, showed no fear or pain. Instead, he enjoyed every time Soo-hyun tortured him. Even when Soo-hyun injured him with a cigarette butt, or when Soo-hyun stabbed Kyung-chol's cheek with a screwdriver, Kyung still didn't feel the slightest pain and regret. Soo-hyun, who saw Kyung-chol, laughed and seemed to mock Soo-hyun, then became even more angry. Moreover, when Kyung-chol said that Soo-hyun was defeated, it made Soo-hyun want to kill him right away. Soo-hyun, who had planned something for Kyung-chol's death, decided to go out the back door. He also left Kyung Chol tied to a cutting tool that Kyung Chol used to cut off his victim's head. Then Soo Hyun hooked it up to the front door, so that when anyone opened the front door, a sharp iron blade would automatically cut Kyung Chol's neck. Then Soo Hyun left the place. At that moment, there was a taxi in which Kyung Chol's father, mother, and son were coming. Soo Hyun deliberately told them to come to watch Kyung Chol die. Soo Hyun also placed a tracking device near Kyung Chol so that Soo Hyun could hear Kyung Chol's fear. Soon Kyung Chol's family tried to open the door. Meanwhile, Kyung Chol tried to keep the door closed. Kyung Chol looked very scared of his death. Then when his son opened the door, Kyung Chol's head was automatically cut off and died. Soo Hyun, who knew that, then cried because he realized that his suffering would not end there.